to another episode of FPW, yeah! The Flash Pro Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Chris Flash, and let's talk pro wrestling. Today, we're going to be talking about championship gold. More specifically, the champions of the top three companies being WWE, AEW, and right now, TNA. We're going to be evaluating all their champions, and every 3 months, I'm going to come back and reevaluate all the champions, talk about their title reigns, and talk about basically their impact, longevity, and quality. If this is the type of content that interests you, make sure you subscribe down below and hit that notification bell so you are alerted whenever I'm dropping this type of content. If you're listening to this on a podcast channel, whether it be Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you leave a follow and a review. I get it. I don't want to be that corny guy that's just being super needy, but these are the things that feed the algorithm. And the whole point of this is we want this thing to grow as big as it can. So help your brother out, man. So we're going to start out with TNA. We're going to start out with their world champion, Mr. Nick Nemeth, a.k.a., or I guess FKA now, Dolph Ziggler. Now, if you've been following this dude for a while, then you know Dolph Ziggler, a.k.a. Nick Nemeth, is the complete package. The fact that he didn't make it to superstardom in the way that he should have in WWE still blows my mind. The guy can do promos. He does great tag team work. And as a solo superstar, I mean, there's nothing he can't do. He can put on hour-long Broadway-style matches, or he can put on comedy matches. He can do squash matches extremely well. The guy has everything that you need to be a world champion. And granted, they did put the world championship on him twice, and he has probably one of the most iconic Money in the Bank cash-ins in WWE history. They never really strapped the rocket to his back in the way that they probably should have. They never actually pulled the trigger on him. I mean, of course, it takes a lot more work to market yourself, but given that he had such a huge name already, it wasn't really that hard. So when he showed up in the Impact Zone over in TNA, instantly you had to assume that this guy was going to be a future world champion. He made waves as soon as he showed up there. Even the things that he did in New Japan. The guy went everywhere and did everything. And so to see him finally get his moment as the TNA World Heavyweight Champion, it's a great thing as a wrestling fan to see, and I'm hoping that he does great. His reign hasn't been super long. He just won it back at Slammiversary, so it's not really a lot of meat on that bone to really speak on. But I can say I'm happy for what he's accomplished so far in TNA. Hopefully this leads to more incredible things, and hopefully this does lead to a very impactful, no pun intended, reign from Mr. Nemeth. Next up, we got the TNA Knockouts World Champion in Miss Jordynne Grace. This chick, the Juggernaut, lives up to her name. Recently, if you guys follow the product of WWE, you know that she's done some crossover stuff with NXT. She actually had a match with NXT Women's Champion Roxanne Perez, who we'll talk about a little bit later. This woman is amazing. She, in my opinion, is probably my favorite women's world champion in all of professional wrestling. She has the personality. She has the look, 100% the look. She has the athleticism. She can put on great matches. She has the strength. She can go in there and put on a great match with the bigger opponents as well as smaller opponents. Great at storytelling. I mean, she's a great ambassador and a great champion for the brand. And like I said, even in women's wrestling, she's been champion. I don't know the exact amount of time, but she has been champion for a while for TNA. So I believe she's one of those performers where whoever they're going to put the title onto next is going to be a pretty significant title change, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. It should be put on someone who they plan to give the same type of treatment if they're able to prove themselves in the way that Jordynne Grace has. Moving on to the X Division champion, the new X Division champion after defeating Mustafa Ali, Mr. Speedball Mike Bailey. Now, I got introduced to Speedball for the first time when he had his match with Will Ospreay. And at first, I really didn't know much about the guy. I didn't have much thought about the guy, to be honest. But after seeing this match and going back to see a little bit of research of some of the things he'd done on the independents, the X Division was a little bit more hard-hitting, in my opinion, given the style of wrestling that it was. But his speed, athleticism, and his ability to counter moves. I mean, the guy would have did great in any era, right? Impact-wise, again, he's someone who hasn't had the championship all too long, but I can't help but, assume that he's going to have amazing matches as champion. I'm hoping he has a pretty lengthy reign. I like to see guys who finally get their comeuppance in the company and actually get to show themselves and get put on a larger stage to make a name for themselves. I think Speedball is one of those people. I mean, he had probably one of the greatest matches in TNA history. Like I said, with Will Ospreay, something has to be said about that. So if Will Ospreay is really, really good and he had a really, really good match with Speedball, then it has to speak something about the type of performer that Speedball is. So we're going to move on to the TNA Digital Media Champion and the Puerto Rican Frankenstein, PCO. I don't know a whole lot about the TNA Digital Media division, I guess it is, but from what I've seen from PCO, he is interesting, but in a good way, in a good hard hitting, almost abyss type of way. To the best of my knowledge, I believe he just won the championship at Slammiversary as well, and I wasn't able to catch that specific match, only just like the highlights. Like I see, kind of reminds me of Abyss, and because of that, I'll definitely be paying more attention to him in the future. Next up, we got the TNA World Tag Team Champions in ABC. I am a big fan of Chris Bay. First of all, anyone that's associated with the Bullet Club, very few of them have been busts, right? But these guys bring a new flavor, a new swag to the Bullet Club. I think it's fresh. I think it's modern. Chris Bay, I've been watching for a long time, and these guys have incredible matches. They might be my favorite act on the TNA brand right now, just for the fact of the type of matches that they're able to have and the type of characters that they are. They're very entertaining. Yeah, these are guys that I'm not really sure who you're gonna take the titles, who's gonna be the one to take the titles off of them. These are the type of guys that I think shouldn't just lose in a good match. It should be storyline related. There should be something that leads up to it. Yeah, these are my guys. Next up, we got the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Champions. So World Tag Team Championships for the women, they're tricky. They work in some promotions and others they don't. WWE. So I like Masha. Alicia kind of reminds me of, in a way, she kind of reminds me of a Sasha Banks. The attitude, obviously Sasha is an incredibly large personality, right? But she definitely gives me Sasha Banks vibes. And Masha, who I've seen have matches with Jordan Grace, she's my style of a female wrestler. I like a hard-hitting woman on the roster just because it seems to lift everyone's game, kind of like a Gunther in WWE. You're gonna get ragdolled a little bit, but I'm gonna sell for you, and that's just how we're gonna build on it. So them together, I think they're a good balance. I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of their matches, but what I will say, they look great together. I've seen Masha's work, so I know that when she's in the ring, she does incredibly well. I will have to sit down and watch a few of their matches, but I'm a big fan of Masha, so hopefully Alicia doesn't pull her down. If I'm wrong about this, listen, guys, I'm just being completely honest. I'm a wrestling fan, but I'm not able to watch everything all the time, all right? So this is just something so for somebody that I don't know a lot about, let me know about it. You know what I'm saying? Keep your calm. Don't go crazy in the comment section, but let me know about it. Tell me the matches that I should see. I go check them out, and I want to be filled in too. You know what I'm saying? I've been a fan for a long time, but I want to learn, so. Okay, next up, we're going to go to AEW, and we're going to start with their world champion, Swerve Strickland. Swerve has finally found himself. The thing about Swerve, his charisma has always been incredible. His athleticism has always been top-notch. He's very rarely had bad matches from what I've seen. But there was always just something, a little something that stopped the bigger companies from pulling the trigger on him. I don't know why, but whatever it is, he has found it in AEW. He has become one of the not only the top stars, but one of the greatest, in my opinion, characters on AEW. The aura that he walks to the ring with all this partying, all of this fun, this dancing, and he's very stoic. He's very focused. He's very about his business. I don't know why it works, but for him, because you can copy and paste that same style and put it on other people and it won't work, but it works for him. And him having the world championship, I feel like so sometimes the championship will make the wrestler. So when he loses it, there's no value in what he can bring anymore. But there are other people who make the championship, and that championship just looks great on the shoulder of Swerve Strickland. Impact wise, it's been great because anytime there's a black world champion, it's significant. I'm always going to celebrate that. I'm always going to be happy about that. And Swerve is one of those guys that it was like about time. It was one of those moments where you're like, finally, he finally got to the next level, and he has not dropped the ball. This match he's about to go into with Bryan Danielson is probably the biggest of his career. You can probably count the Will Ospreay match, but this one, given the stakes, it's title versus career. It is at All in Wembley Stadium, the biggest show that they have, and you're main eventing against another arguable greatest wrestler on the planet. That that's a lot of pressure, and he's able to create the feeling of calmness, as if I do this and there ain't nothing you can do to stop me. That's the type of world champion that I like. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Swerve champ for a year. Really let him solidify his legacy as a championship contender moving forward. And that way you have to associate the main event scene with Swerve Strickland. If I'm Tony Khan, that will honestly be the direction I will go in. I don't know how we get there, but that would be my goal. Moving on, we've got the TNT champion in Jack Perry. Um, this new Jack Perry is cool. I wasn't the biggest fan of Jungle Boy, but since he's got this new attitude, this new hero persona, I like the edginess of him. I like to see him really, I guess, push himself against certain opponents. This match again, he's got coming up against Darby Allin at All In. It's interesting because it's a coffin match, which you would think would be Darby's specialty, but Jack is the one that challenged him. So I'm interested to see how this goes. Blood and Guts was a good showing for him. He didn't quit. He was down for whatever, and I think that's really him proving himself that he's not a boy anymore is the best way that I can describe it. Him going that route, I think it's interesting, and because of that, I don't think now is the time to take the TNT championship off of him. Really solidify himself as a new character, maybe even away from the elite. I get right now you want to put him with the elite to kind of give him some notoriety, aside from, like, if you pair him with the top heels, then we begin to see him as a top heel, right? So maybe I feel like that's the direction that they should go in with him. Otherwise, you go from Jungle Boy, who relatively will win pretty, especially when he was in a tag team, to just going to it to being a single star and not really doing much, but winning a championship and losing. I don't. This guy's one of the four pillars. So impact, there hasn't really been much. Longevity is definitely not there. Quality wise, we're still waiting to see, and we're still looking at it. and seeing where we can go from here. He's only been champion. He's been champion for less than 50 days. So I think there's still much more time to develop this and create a new character that we can really wrap our minds around. Because I'm still having a hard time not seeing Jungle Boy, but I like the direction they're going in. Next up, we got MJF Maxwell Jacob Freeman as the international. Excuse me, I won't say international championship. The American Championship? All right. I enjoy heel MJF. I enjoy MJF in general, right? Incredible performer. He is a very, you know what's interesting? MJF, I feel like the character that he presents on TV is a very underrated performer. And when I say that, I mean we appreciate him, but he doesn't sell himself when he's like cutting promos and whatnot. It's you don't, unless you have seen him wrestle, he doesn't give you Daniel Bryant level of talent. He just gives you douchebag until the bell rings, and he's one of the best performers on the roster. That's a very interesting concept because you never know what you're gonna get. You can enjoy MJF for a multitude of different reasons, and that really showcased during his title run as champion because he was a babyface the entire time. We were introduced to MJF as a heel. We've always known him as the scum of the earth. So for him to get over as high as he did with Adam Cole as champion and still be captivating, if not more captivating, impact-wise, it was extremely impactful, 100%. And so him as the American champion, given that he's about to have a match with Will Ospreay at All In, I kind of feel like they're going to give the championship back to Will. I don't think they really had any major intentions with MJF with the international champion. It's just a way to keep him away from the world championship for a little while, because you can't really. I mean, you can throw him in the TNT picture, but it's like, how do you make that believable? You know what I mean? Like, how do you? MJF's kind of put himself in a world championship contention situation completely. Even with the international championship, we know that's just there just to kind of boost the championship itself, right? It's with champions like Orange Cassidy and now MJF, Will Ospreay. How do I say this? You have to put the title on big names to make it matter. And I think they're gonna put the championship back on Will just because they really want to push Will. But if I'm Tony, I would stretch this MJF thing out just a little bit more. Maybe the American Championship is kind of dead in the water, and we really don't need a super long time with that. But if we could go back to the International Championship and him just being that for a little while as a heel, and maybe even continuing the feud with Will Ospreay, which I think is a golden feud. I don't really I think there's more longevity with MJF as champ. I mean, if you want him to be in a championship picture, but you don't want him to be the world champion, keep the international. Because what do you do with him afterwards? A tag team again? Is Adam Cole cleared? If not, what else do you do with him right now? We're gonna go and move on to the AEW Continental Champion Kazuchika Okada. So with Okada, he's been champion for I think like 100 and something days. So the longevity is there. I'll give him that. A few months. A few months is really what a few months, 6 months is a good reign. 6 months to a year, incredible reign, right? So around about 3.5 months, 4 months, that's a pretty solid reign as a champion. It's not stale. The only thing about Kazuchika is I feel like he's so wrapped up with the elite that he doesn't need the championship, and they're just putting all the championships in the elite to make them feel more important. But it's tough when you have two mid card champions and the tag team championships. Like there has to be a world title in there if you're looking to be this authority figure type of faction. There has to be a world champion in there. And I wouldn't mind it being Kazuchika Okada. It's not like he doesn't have the talent. It's not like he's not one of the greatest wrestlers in the world. It's not like he didn't have arguably the greatest feud in pro wrestling history. I'm not talking about The Rock and Stone Cold. I'm wondering if now is the time that you pull the trigger and enter him into the world championship picture. Could we get a Swerve Strickland versus Kazuchika Okada? I don't see why not. I think it'll be interesting. If he is the one to beat Swerve, if the elite are the ones to stick it to Swerve via a Hangman Page, quality of the reign, I haven't, like I said, I haven't really gotten much. He's gonna have decent matches. He's very entertaining in his matches, but he's been so wrapped up with the elite that I think the Continental Championship has kind of become a little bit secondary. So we'll see it all in what happens there. I'm imagining that by the time I do my next installment of this series, that we'll be able to say that okay, Kazuchika Okada is going up the card, and we're going into the first match, or we're hinting at the first encounter between Okada and Strickland. The FTW Championship. Technically, they don't really recognize this title, but it's held by Chris Jericho. Sure. Moving on, we got the AEW Tag Team Champions and the Young Bucks. I mean, if you're a professional wrestling fan, what else can I say about the Young Bucks? I mean, it's they are who they are. I mean, they are what if not the greatest tag team in the world, definitely one of. Every championship reign they've had from every single company has been incredible. This one, though, is probably my least favorite, only because they haven't defended it. Yeah, this has been underwhelming. It's been wrapped up so much in the storyline of the elite that, again, I feel like it's just kind of become an afterthought that they're tag team champions. And given the fact that we're going to All In, that's the only reason why they're scrambling, is because they want all the championships to be defended. And yeah, this just kind of feels like a waste of a reign to me. So not really feeling this one. We're gonna wind the the team division out with the trios champions in the patriarchy of Christian, Nick Wayne, and Luchasaurus. I guess Kill Switch is what he's going by now. I've always liked the championships better when they are with the House of Black. They just feel like they're more important. Maybe the Acclaimed too, or yeah, the Acclaimed is always pretty cool. Bullet Club Gold. Bullet Club Gold did very, very well with it. And I think it was stupid as to why they were stripped of the championships in the first place, because it's not like they couldn't use Freebird rules. The trios division is interesting because there's only a few of them that really do well, I feel like, when in championship style matches. And so with the patriarchy, I'm interested to see, because right now it's going to be based around who Christian is. So I feel like it's just a title to put on him to kind of get him over even more. And I want to see the patriarchy versus the House of Black. Yeah, that's what I want to see. And I want to see Nick Wayne bump up against Brody King. That's what for him for me to believe in this Nick Wayne guy. I'm not saying he's a bad performer. I'm not saying this reign is going to be bad, but I think that's the team to beat. All right, women's division. We got the women's world champion in Timeless Toni Storm. I think Toni Storm is great. I've always been a fan of her, but I think this new version, this new character that she has really shows her range. Because Toni's never really had much of character. She's just been herself, but kicked up to 11. And I think she knew that she needed to really step out of that lane she had kind of carved for herself. Because Toni Storm's Australian, right? I believe Toni Storm is Australian, and right now the biggest Australian female wrestler is Rhea Ripley. So how do you separate yourself from that? You have to become something different, and she has done an amazing job with that. And I'm very excited to see the match between her and Mariah May. So the quality of this reign has been incredible. The impact of this reign has been great, not only for the women's division but for herself as a character, and the longevity. I mean, she's been champion. Let's see here, 272 days as of this time of recording. Hey, almost a year, 100 days out from, or less than 100 days out from a full year as women's champion. You got to take your hat off to it. Wrapping up AEW with the TBS champion, Mercedes Moné, or formerly known as Sasha Banks. Now that she's a heel officially, it works. I've never liked Sasha as a babyface. It just never worked for me. And I think her reign, now that she has a henchman by her side, some muscle, I think that's a really good indicator that she's going to be champion for a long time. I think her championship reign is gonna rival Jade Cargill's. I'll say that. I can see. I'll be honest. I can see. All right, so we're going into All In. I could see Mercedes being champion going into the next All In, and maybe losing it there. And let's round things out with the WWE. And we're going to start with my boy, the Ring General, Gunther, the new World Heavyweight Champion. I mean, come on, it's Gunther. The man has only set records since he's been in WWE. He was the longest reigning NXT UK champion. He was the longest reigning Intercontinental champion. I mean, you gotta assume the guy's gonna be the longest reigning World Heavyweight Champion, right? I mean, why would you go any other direction? He's going to go into the next WrestleMania as world champion. I don't see anybody beating him anytime soon. This guy, he is what we needed for the World Heavyweight Championship. Thank you, Seth Rollins. Thank you, Damian Priest. But this guy, this is my champion. Next up, we got Liv Morgan. I think I've spoken a lot about, if you haven't heard any of my rants about how I feel about Liv Morgan, make sure you go revisit some of the podcast episodes. I'll leave the link down below on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Just look up FPW or Flash Pro Wrestling, all one word. It should pop up. Oh no, excuse me, I'm not all one word. That's YouTube. Look up Flash Pro Wrestling, space it out, and it should pop up. But yeah, I'm not a fan. It's not that I'm not a fan of Liv, but her as champion just doesn't matter to me. She is entertaining as champion because Rhea Ripley is chasing her and what she's done with the Judgment Day. But her championship hasn't had any type of impact until Rhea came back. So impact has got to be a dud for me. Longevity, she's only been champion for like a couple months. What's it say here? 82 days. That's nothing. And I think she's only defended it once against Zelina Vega. So, and when she did defend it at SummerSlam, she had to cheat to win. So there's not really much to say about her reign. Her character work has been great. I would definitely give her that. But this championship reign, especially when you are following a Rhea Ripley reign that lasted for a year and seemed like it was going to last for another one, yeah, it's just not. Next up, we've got the Intercontinental Championship won by Mr. Braun Breaker. Braun is the guy. Braun is the next face of the company. Braun is the next Cody Rhodes, if you will, I believe. Braun is the I would say Braun is the Roman Reigns to the new Shield, if you will, in Braun, Carmelo, and Ilya Dragunov. So I would say definitely his longevity hasn't been there. He just won it back at SummerSlam. Same thing with the impact. I think the impact on him is going to be great because this is a way for people to really sink their teeth into him if they didn't get enough of him in NXT. And now we're gonna actually get to see him do work. Like really get in there and and become better and grow as a character, grow as a performer. And we're gonna get to watch this guy's career blossom into a WrestleMania main event before our eyes. Next up, we got the World Tag Team Champions in the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and JD. I'm dropping my gold and JD McDonough. So I like this reign only because it's teacher and student. I think that's pretty cool. I'm a fan of JD McDonough. I hate his name, but him as a wrestler, I love him. It's Finn is amazing, so it only makes sense that he's gonna partner with this student who is also amazing. But right now they just kind of feel more of a comedy act. Well, JD definitely feels like a comedy act. And it doesn't seem like they're gonna really have much to do with the tag team champions, considering they're kind of all wrapped up in this feud they have with Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley. So there's not much there, I feel like, to sink teeth into as far as their reign. I honestly don't even see them being champions for that much longer because of the direction I feel like they're gonna go with the dissension into, I guess you would say, Judgment Day 2.0. So all right, so we're going to go over to SmackDown, and we've got the WWE Tag Team Champions in the bloodline of Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu. Never thought I would be saying that I never thought I would be saying that Tama Tonga is a tag team champion with anybody other than Tonga Loa. Jacob is, I've gone on and on and on about who Jacob is and what he is and how amazing he is, and I really wish that God would have won those championships, and that would have given Jacob an opportunity to go after singles gold, right? Maybe he could go out there against LA Knight and get the United States Championship and bring that to the bloodline, and then that way everyone has titles in the bloodline. Something that Roman wasn't able to consistently do because they hurried up and got the North American Championship up off of Solo Sikoa when he first got there. So there's not much to really say about it. Jacob Fatu isn't on television right now because he's selling his injury, and Tama Tonga just keeps getting smacked around by Roman Reigns. So. And we're going to go over to the women's tag team championships. Who cares? The speed championship. Who cares? And the speed women's championship, there hasn't been one yet. All right, covered that. So let's go to the United States champion, LA Knight. So LA Knight just won the championship at SummerSlam, finally. So again, him and Nia Jax, the women's champion, there's not much to say about them. Happy for them, happy for the direction they're going to be going in. And I look forward to seeing what LA Knight does as champion now that he's finally fulfilled this prophecy that he's been speaking about for the better part of a year, if not a year. It has to mean something, right? We have to get some great matches, some great feuds. If it's LA Knight, we're gonna get great promos. And so yeah, I look forward to his reign. Nia, I hope they're not making Nia champion only as a way to boost Tiffany. I feel like they put that championship on Nia just to give something to attach to Tiffany since she's a Miss Money in the Bank, and I hate that because I really want to see Nia as champion. I really want to see her go have great matches and have great feuds around that championship. And if you're just doing it for Tiffany to cash in on her, it's kind of weak. It's kind of transitional. Let them have a feud or something. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Tiffany shocks the world and she cashes in on Liv. You know what I mean? Like maybe they can both be champion. I don't know. The whole brand thing, they try to make a thing. So I'm not really sure which way you go with that. But I hate it for Nia if they're just going to be doing this for a couple months just for her to cash in on her. Or maybe they even go all the way to WrestleMania. That would be interesting. The first woman to cash in at WrestleMania, and all this time you're supposed to be my friend, and that can set up a pretty cool feud. Just one I hope that isn't reminiscent of Nia versus Alexa Bliss. The undisputed WWE champion, the American Nightmare, Mr. Cody Rhodes. I have spoken a lot on what I believe, what I see Cody Rhodes' championship reign as. And I've been trying my best not to compare it to Roman Reigns, but that's very, very difficult considering Roman's the GOAT. Being champ for 4 months, he's had great matches. He's been on television every single week, which is refreshing. You know, kudos to him. That's great. The only thing that I hate is that he's too white meat babyface. He's too good. And a lot of people, you know, I've heard a lot of people in the IWC like Cody for that reason. It's not my cup of tea. I think he's a great performer. I think he has great charisma. Love his entrance. Love his music. He's a great package. But and Cody's chase for the championship was excellent. Legendary. Yet his reign, questionable. Great performer, great wrestler. I don't know about the most entertaining champion. But I think he's a great champion as far as what he represents to the company. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. If you stayed this far, make sure you leave a comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this. Again, this is going to be a 3-month series I'm going to do. Every 3 months, I'm going to come back. I'm going to reevaluate the championship scene across all of professional wrestling. And we're going to look and see, we're going to look at the quality, the impact, and the longevity of those reigns. Again, if you guys made it to the end, leave a comment down in the video. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed this type of content. Hit the notification bell so you are alerted when I drop an episode. And I'll see you guys down the road. And as always, be safe, be kind, be blessed. Peace.